Here are some pictures and recordings of my mom, Nancy Josephine Williams. Her first husband was Greg Vincent Rose. Her second husband was Salvador Mascoro Lopez. I asked her to record her voice, because every time I talked to her we were interrupted. I also wanted it for this occasion. She died July 26 at 9:30 p.m. 2025. Well, here is her voice and pictures for posterity.
Dear Salvador, first of all, thank you for buying me this little contraption to record our history. As you know, my mother was from Texas, my father's from Oregon, my grandmother from Arkansas. How they met was in San Francisco in about 1934. Mama was born in Houston in 1902. My father was born in Portland, Oregon in 1902. My grandmother was born in Arkansas, Blue Mountain, in 1877. She came out to Oregon on that Oregon Trail with her mother and father in the late 1800s, and her father died on the way, and they buried him alongside the road and kept going. Then Mama, my grandmother was with her sister and brother and her mother, and the mother put her brother Johnny and her in a convent. And Grandma stayed there till she was 18. The way for her to get out was to marry this man that they had set her up with, this older man. So she married him, and he took her back to Texas and put her out in the fields to pick cotton. She didn't like that, so she left him and came back to Oregon. Then she married a steward. He owned a general merchandise store. And that didn't work out very long. Then she married Daniel Williams at about 1900 or 1901. And he had like 5 or 6 kids. He was a widower. And then they had my father. And my father overheard Daniel and her mother talking about putting her out to work. And she didn't like that, so she left that situation and raised Daddy on her own. My mother in Texas, she didn't really know her mother and father. The woman that raised her was Maud Hanson Schubert Fitzgerald, and they weren't on the census until about 1908, where Maud got together with Sterling Fitzgerald, and they moved to Dallas, and that's where they raised my mother, was in Dallas. And Maud always told my mother that she had kidnapped my mother. My mother was a twin, had a twin brother, and he died when he was 18 months old. And she took my mother because she said her real mother was a dancer and was gone all the time, and she thought she could raise her better. But she wasn't supposed to tell anybody. So as years went on, my mother married Arthur Latimer. He was a few years older than her. I think she was 17 or 18. Then they had 3 children. Arthur Jr., Virginia, and Dottie. And Latimer was in the Navy. They lived on a Navy base back there in Texas. But somehow my mother always wanted more money. And they didn't make very much money. But she was a very good housekeeper, a cook. She did everything really good: sewing, quilting, embroidery, knitting, no knitting, embroidery, crocheting, clothes. She could make clothes, cook very good. And I guess in about 1933, her in-laws came to visit. That's James Latimer and his wife Olivia, who was his second wife. They came from San Francisco to visit there in Texas. And she always said this old man would flirt with her. Well, after they went back home, the wife wrote, "Mama, why don't you come out and visit us? And we'll show you a good time in San Francisco."
That is all for now, much more to come. I have lots of recordings and pictures. I loved her very much. She was such a great woman and mother.